Welcome back in. This is the Jake Asman Show right here on the Sports Map Radio Network. We're less than a week out until the NFL draft. The Jets hold the second pick. They hold the 23rd pick in the first round. They hold the 34th pick in round 2 as well. They've had a busy offseason, and it gets a lot more fun if you're a Jets fan coming up starting next Thursday. Joining us now to talk all things Jets. You could read his work at the jetpress.com, part of Fansided. I've been following him on Twitter for a long time. Great Jet insider, great Jet reporter. He is Mike Mitchell, and he joins us now. Mike, welcome. Thanks so much for a couple minutes here.
Thank you for having me on. It's an honor, Jake. You're doing a tremendous job. I love your show.
Appreciate that. So let's kind of start big picture, right? We know the Jets have the draft coming up. We know they have the second pick. But let's go back to the offseason, how it began. Robert Saleh named the head coach. I know you like that hire a lot. Explain to the listeners why you think Saleh's the right guy for the Jets to have in charge.
He's a complete 180 from the last guy the Jets had in charge. I mean, they really needed someone to galvanize the franchise from a public image standpoint and just to galvanize the building. They need this, Robert is the kind of coach that can change an entire culture, and the Jets need a culture. They have a losing culture right now. There's no dancing around it. So he's the perfect kind of coach, and he's a new wave coach. He's a motivational guy, but he's not a Parcells type, where you talk down the players, which I don't mind that type of style. But Robert is the kind of guy who motivates his staff, too. What I really liked about the work he did with the Niners was obviously his defense was very good last year. It was impressive what they did with all their injuries. What I really like is, and this shows to me that he can be a great leader as a head coach, he's really good at listening to input from his assistants and implementing it. If you follow the Niners the last few years, his defense is vastly different from what it was 3 years ago. And that's because he listened to suggestions from his coaches. And he's going to need to do that, delegate authority as a head coach. I mean, everyone's going to consider it the Robert Saleh defense, even though Jeff Ulbrich is the defensive coordinator. But I truly believe Saleh will have input, of course. But I think he's going to utilize the entire staff. Coach the coaches. That's something Bill Parcells was excellent at. You look at the coaching staffs the Jets had over the years, Giants, Parcells had with the Giants and Patriots as well. Parcells is tough on his guys, but he get the most out of them. And Saleh has a different style, but he's also the same way. He believes in his assistants. He believes in his people, and they believe in him. And for a chance, at least for the moment, things feel great right now. We're in the honeymoon period. The Jet Nation believes in Robert Saleh. And so it's been a while since the fan base could say that about the leader of the franchise.
No doubt. This is probably the most excitement a Jet fans had for a head coach really since Rex Ryan, when Rex had that great first press conference and he's not going to kiss Belichick's rings, and the fan base was ready to run through a wall for Rex then, and it worked out obviously for a number of years. Mike, I think you make a great point that not a lot of people have brought up with just the overall coaching staff and getting the most out of those guys and delegating authority. Todd Bowles didn't really do anything to delegate authority to the offensive side of the ball. Rex Ryan, you could say a knock on him. He didn't delegate authority to the offensive side of the ball either, and Gase was just a disaster all over the place. I don't need to go down that hole, but he was supposed to be an offensive guy and didn't do anything on defense. As far as what Saleh could do delegating responsibilities, talk to me about the staff he's brought in, some of the interesting things you find about some of the hires that have been made, and the ability you think Saleh has to coach up the entire coaching staff.
What's going to be big, he's got a great relationship with Mike LaFleur, obviously Matt LaFleur, the Packers head coach. And Mike LaFleur is the most fascinating coach on the Jets coaching staff. I mean, they brought in some excellent coaches like Greg Knapp, John Benton, who's the offensive line coach of the Niners. They're bringing in that old school Alex Gibbs, Mike Shanahan system with zone blocking. And I think Mike LaFleur, if it's a success in year one, because we're talking about a rookie quarterback, a rookie head coach, and a first-time offensive coordinator. I know Mike LaFleur was like a part of co-offensive coordinator, for lack of a better term, with San Francisco. If we're in a good position a year from now, if Mike LaFleur is being interviewed for head coaching jobs, that means the offense was a success and he did a great job with the rookie quarterback. And it's going to be fascinating because the Jets are going through a complete change offensively and defensively. This is the first time since Herman Edwards was around that the Jets are running a 4-3 defense. The Jets have had a version of the 3-4 dating back now, I believe, to 2005, 2006, thereabouts. So whenever Eric came on board. So, or Mangini, that is. So I think Mike LaFleur is very important, and I think the offense is going to be fascinating to watch. And those elements, I know the expectation level is low for the Jets because there's unknowns. Rookie quarterback, rookie head coach, first-time offensive coordinator. I think Robert Saleh has tremendous faith in that system. He's been through it. He was on Kubiak's staff, who's also from the Shanahan system. So Saleh knows how much stress that offense puts on defenses and how the offensive scheme that the Shanahan system has puts a lot of stress on defenses to respect the run and the pass because their plays look like this one and the same. So it makes defenses read rather than react. So there's opportunities for big plays. It's a great system for running the football. It's like a plug-and-play system where a bunch of different one-cut guys can have success. So it's exciting to see how that pans out during the season and the types of players they put in that system. We're going to find out a lot about what they're looking for come the draft.
Mike Mitchell, the JetPress.com, joining us here, part of the Fansided Sports Network. So, Mike, let's talk about this offseason. We went through the coaching hire of Saleh. Now let's talk about some of the big moves that were made. We'll get to the Darnold trade in a moment, but as far as free agent signings, what stood out to you? What move do you like the most out of the many signings that Joe Douglas has made this offseason?
You know, they swung for the fences with two specific signings. Corey Davis, a wide receiver. Again, that goes back to the offensive scheme. The Niner system, Shanahan system, requires big physical wide receivers who can block, can make plays, and they break tackles in the open field and can make contested catches. So it's the Jets have a little bit method to their madness. Their two outside receivers are both 6'3", can jump through the building. If this was Madden, they have some great spectacular catch ratings. So, and they're going to block. So that's important there. And then, of course, Carl Lawson. It's been forever and a day since the New York Jets have had an elite or dynamic pass rusher on the outside. They had plenty of guys in the interior who've been good players, but they just haven't had a player like John Abraham in a long time. So fingers crossed. The stats look very good. Obviously, the sack totals weren't that high with Cincinnati. You can argue that might have been a reason for that might have been the way he was used in that defensive system. You hope they can tap into Lawson's great potential because it's a long time coming. So those are the two most important. I think that the areas that kind of surprised me with the Jets offseason free agency is that they didn't address, and we'll see what happens with the rest of free agency, but quite frankly, they didn't address the offensive line or cornerback position. And so Joe Douglas, I don't want to insult the players that are on the Jets offensive line right now. He kind of nickel and dimed it last year. You know, Connor McGovern was a pretty decent signing. George Fant, okay, but modest signings. You know, Alex Lewis, Greg Van Roten. And I was kind of surprised that the Jets didn't go after, not that there were very many of them out there, an elite offensive lineman. That could be a hint where they're going in the draft. Corner is an interesting spot, too, for the Jets. Like, that's an area where you can't compete in today's NFL if you can't cover. So I don't want to disrespect Bless Austin because I actually do like Javelin Guidry and Bryce Hall. There's a lot of promise there. The Jets need more than just that. So perhaps Richard Sherman could be joining the Jets. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. He'd be a great veteran influence. But they really need a premium corner or two, really. So those are two areas I'm surprised that Joe Douglas did not address. And I would think, you would hope, that that's what they're going to address in the draft.
Totally agree. And I think part of the offensive line issues is maybe just the scheme that they were running under Gase. Like, I really feel like they're so confident in this new offense that they'll have a new quarterback, a new play caller. The ball will get out quicker. They'll be running a different style as far as like a zone scheme, you know, when they're going to be running the football. So maybe that alone makes the Jets offensive line look a lot better. Plus, as you said, Mike, the NFL draft is upon us and they have all these picks to address the line there as well. Let's get to the Darnold trade now, and then we'll get more into the draft. Get your thoughts on the likely pick at number 2 being Zach Wilson. As far as the trade, did you expect the Jets to make the trade of Sam Darnold? And what did you make of the return they got, getting a 2nd and a 4th round pick next year for Sam, and obviously a late 6th round pick this year for Darnold?
I think all things considered, I think they got good value for Sam Darnold. A lot of Jet Nation has a soft spot for him. It's hard not to feel for the guy. You could definitely saw glimpses of brilliance from him. It fell apart in year 3. What a roller coaster ride it was towards the end of last season to now in terms of all the different questions we had about the quarterback position. I mean, from Deshaun Watson, the dream there, And then, of course, Trevor Lawrence, which the Jets blew that kind of, and then here we are, the love affair with Justin Fields, and of course, Zach Wilson, who's presumably the pick. Sam is a guy everyone's going to be rooting for. So it's easy that he's in the NFC. I think they got a good package for him. Hopefully he does well there with Matt Rule. In an alternate universe, Matt Rule would have been coaching on the Jets and would have been coaching Darnold and Robbie Anderson. Instead, he's in Carolina. But it's just the way it worked out. But I think Joe Douglas got, he gets an opportunity. Joe Douglas has an opportunity now, even though he's technically will be his third year. It's his second draft coming up. He has an opportunity to start fresh, much like his new coaching staff. He's pressing the reset button, and he's starting fresh with a new quarterback. And from a business standpoint, it's hard to argue with resetting the salary cap and starting a new clock on a franchise quarterback. And it's always a good thing. It worked out for the Jets with Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez. It's always a good thing to tie in a rookie head coach with his own quarterback instead of Sam's I'm not trying to insult him. He's a little bit of a reclamation project right now. You don't know. He might, I figure he's going to be better in Carolina, but you don't know if he's ever going to reach the level that everybody expected him to. So we'll see, hopefully. But I think it would have been a risk to bring him back for 1 year and then for him to flop, and then the Jets to go back to square one again, looking for that franchise guy. Hopefully, this whole roller coaster ride's coming to an end soon, and hopefully the Jets get the right guy come draft time.
No doubt. I agree with everything you said. I've talked about it a lot on the radio show. Just the risk of sticking with Sam in year 4 and hoping it all magically happens for him. When you have the second pick, you could reset the quarterback contract with a rookie. And I think the best point you made, Mike, the timeline, all matching up with GM, head coach, and new quarterback. So I love Sam. I wish him all the best, but it just made too much sense to trade him and now build around the likely pick at number 2, Zach Wilson. So let's talk about Wilson. You've watched tape on all these guys. I know you've been breaking it down. Give me your thoughts on the options at 2 and if you think the Jets are making the right decision going with Zach Wilson with that second pick.
I've looked at every one of them. I like Mac Jones. I know he's gotten a lot of heat. He's obviously not my favorite of the bunch, but there's a lot of great things he did on tape last year, obviously. And Trey Lance perhaps has the most upside of all these guys, not named Trevor Lawrence. But to me, it's a 2-horse race between Justin Fields and Zach Wilson. And I'm conflicted on both because I can see the reasoning behind drafting either one. On Justin Fields' side, I'm very impressed by his mental and physical toughness. I think people think of the Clemson game where he came back from that great injury and played great. But I also, the way he was championing playing in the Big Ten, and he didn't need to. He would have been a first-round pick anyway. He wanted to get back on the field. So, and he really pushed for it. So that impressed me, that leadership. And then obviously today we saw the story. I don't know if you saw it, Jake, or not, but they were talking about he's got a history with epilepsy and seizures and all that. And that hits close to home for me. I won't get into all that. But it shows how much adversity he's gone through, how tough he is, how tough-minded he is, what a heart he has. And obviously the elite skill set is elite for Justin in terms of his running ability and his arm strength and his size. So he has some pluses over Zach Wilson. The thing that I really love about Zach Wilson is oftentimes we talk about arm strength and we kind of ignore arm talent. There's a big difference between the two. And Zach Wilson's like a great baseball pitcher. He has 5 different pitches. He throws at different velocities. And a lot of times when you watch his tape, you think to yourself, oh, he's playing YOLO ball or hero ball. He's just throwing it up there. He'll never get away with that in the NFL. But then when you go back and you watch the plays, you go, wow, there's a method to his madness because he's throwing passes at specific angles and specific directions that are anticipating where the defender is going to be and where his receiver is. And sometimes I've seen BYU wide receivers drop the ball because they didn't expect the ball to come at that angle and that point. So I think it helps with the Jets if he ends up the Jets quarterback that he's got 2 big, tall outside wide receivers who are great at catching the ball, 50-50 balls. So it's a flip of the coin for me. I'd be happy with either one. But if you're asking me to pick one right now, I would pick Zach Wilson of the 2. I would not be upset if they took Justin Fields. I get it. He's the thing that worries me with Zach Wilson is narrow upper body, history with injuries. And, and that's really the biggest concern I have with him is him holding up. I guess as a Jets fan, I watched Chad Pennington go through so many different injuries and have durability issues. But I think people are labeling him as a boom or bust, but I think they need to go back to the film room and study Zach Wilson. He has dynamic, otherworldly throwing talents. And he's got moxie, swagger, and he's mobile. He has mobile. He's not as mobile as Justin Fields. Justin Fields is an amazing athlete. He gets it done running. He makes defenders miss in the open field. Sometimes I would wish he wouldn't try to run guys over like Darnold used to. But I wish he would stay away from that. But he's tough too. The Coastal Carolina game, which I know a lot of the Jet fan base went back and watched, he had defenders piling up on him before the half. They had a huge melee between both teams.
Yeah.
Drop passes. I mean, they were really testing him. I like his moxie. He's going to have a lot of pressure on him, whoever it is, right? I'm assuming it's Zach Wilson. But the person who steps in, and no doubt about it, anybody who's a top 5 pick, top 10 pick is going to have a lot of pressure. The guy the Niners take is, they just gave 3 first-round picks for him and the pick they got for Saleh. So that guy's going to, and whoever that is, Mac Jones, whomever, is going to be measured up to the rest of the quarterbacks in the class. Zach Wilson's not only going to New York, he's going to be measured up in fair or unfair. He's going to be measured up against Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be met for the rest of his career. He's going to be measured up against the rest of the guys in the class, whether that be Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Justin Fields. And he's also going to be measured up against Sam Darnold.
Yep.
So, and people need to have patience. I understand that's very hard because of the expectation levels that he's going to be like Justin Herbert right out the gate. And here's praying that he is. But, a lot of quarterbacks, Josh Allen included, struggle in their first year. Peyton Manning, I know this is a different era now. Peyton Manning, at 58% completion percentage through 28 interceptions his rookie season. God forbid Zach does that. They'll want to run him out of New York if he throws 28 interceptions. But there's going to be some growing pains. And I don't know if he's going to be, Sam Darnold had growing pains in year 1, and people kind of gave him a little bit of a break. I think people were fair, believe it or not, in year 1 with Sam Darnold. He had some great moments too, but he had some growing pains, and people gave him a pass. I think Zach Wilson's going to be a little bit harder for him to get a pass. He has to be great. I don't know if he'll be that from day one. He certainly has the talent to be that. But he's going to be in a tough spot. Let's hope he's got the mentality to handle it, because the scrutiny is going to be to the umpteenth degree.
No doubt about it. Mike Mitchell, the JetPress.com, with us here as we're talking all things Jets ahead of the NFL draft next week. So let's kind of wrap up here, Mike. I mean, we know about the pick at 2. It's going to be Zach Wilson. Pick at 23, pick at 34. Give us a feel for how you think some of the Jets' early picks are going to play out. What will Joe Douglas do to try and improve this team?
It's a byproduct of being a 2-win team. You almost wish the Jets had 5 or 6 picks in the first 34. Because they could pick an offensive lineman and a corner, and you sit there and say, well, they really need a dynamic playmaker running back, or they could use an extra edge rusher, or they could go the other way. They could take an edge rusher and a running back and go, why didn't you address offensive line and corner? So they have so many needs that they can truly take best player available, whomever is highest rated on the board. A lot of teams say that, and they really just go for need. The Jets' needs are all over the place. So these players that they pick have to be foundation pieces, the same way that Nick Mangold and DeBrickashaw Ferguson were foundation pieces way back when. In a perfect world, the Jets come out of this draft with a franchise quarterback, another building block foundation piece on the offensive line to go with Mekhi Becton, and a shutdown number 1 corner. Easier said than done. And they could go in another direction. They could go. I know a lot of people are against them taking a running back. I get that. It's not really the value with the NFL now to go take a running back. But when you look at the Jets offense, if you were playing the Jets tomorrow, how many guys are you fearful of if you're game planning for them? If you might be a little worried about Mekhi Becton flattening your defenders on the offensive line, but the Jets don't really have. We'll see what happens with Corey Davis and Denzel Mims, and hopefully they turn out to be great. Mims showed a lot of potential. Davis is a quality receiver. The Jets paid him like he's going to get to the next level, so hopefully. But I'm not against them addressing running back if they have a belief that player is going to be dynamic. It's been a long time. The Jets don't have a lot of dynamic playmakers on their team. They don't have a lot of guys that keep opposing teams up at night. So if they do take a run, I don't think they're going to, but if they do take a running back at 23, I'm not opposed to it. Because the Jets need playmakers, period. So it's going to be fascinating to see what they do. I mean, if there's a player that's falling in the draft a little bit, will they use their draft capital and move up from 23? If you see a Patrick Surtain, all of a sudden 15 for some dumb reason, or somebody they really love. Maybe they like Elijah Vera Tucker or Rashawn Slater or somebody like that, and they're like, you know what, let's do it, let's move up. They have to have that flexibility to do that, and rather than just staying in the on the clock and just settling for whoever comes to you. You better be. Some of the best Jets moves of all time were trade ups for like Darrelle Revis and others. If the Jets could have sat back and drafted Leon Hall or whomever else was on the clock at the time, they had decided to move up and go get Revis, and one of the greatest moves in the history of the franchise. So I think they need to address a lot of different areas, and I'm not opposed to anybody they pick, obviously, unless they pick 2 quarterbacks, which they're not going to do. So right. That's basically that with and it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. It's an extremely important draft. It's long overdue that the Jets. I'm tired of the Jets drafting players, and then 2-3 years later they either turn out to be busts or the Jets get rid of them. Right. Let's draft some guys that are going to last 10 years with the franchise. So that's what Joe Douglas's task is, to find players, cornerstone players like that.
Well said. He's Mike Mitchell. You can check him out. Read all his work, thejetpress.com. It's through Fansided. They do a great job covering the Jets on a day-in, day-out basis. Mike is also on Twitter as well. @ByMikeMitchell is where you can find him. Follow him there. Read all his work. Mike, appreciate you making some time for us to talk all things Jets. We'll do it again soon, and I think our YouTube audience is going to love this, so thanks so much.
Thank you, Jake. You're great. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the full YouTube video. If you like what you saw, then please subscribe to my page for more content. Thank you.